Hi bookworms, Soren here, just popping in to let you know about the Secret Solstice book swap we're running on our Discord. If you've got a pre-loved book looking for a new home and you'd like to get a new title in return this winter, you can sign up to be matched with a fellow bookworm to give and receive a second-hand book. The link to join our Discord is in the show notes, and you can find all the information about the swap, including the form to sign up, in the announcements channel. We can also promise bookish chats and cozy cats. Sign-ups close 27th of November 2023. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy the episode.
Welcome to the Hidden Bookcase. Come through and get cozy. Pick a book, your favourite book, that's the one that opens this room. Inside you'll find a warm fire, a loving cat, and a wide skylight to the stars.
And a dangerously high to be read pile.
I'm Morgan, I use they them pronouns, and did you know cows watch sunsets?
I'm Soren, I use he him pronouns, and did you know that cows have best friends?
I'm Zoey, I use he they pronouns, and did you know that cows exhibit mourning behaviours?
Soren and I have been friends for over a decade, and the two of us are always swapping books.
Each fortnight, the two of us, sometimes with help from a friend, take it in turns to recommend one another a favourite read. The first-time reader tells us what they know about the book, makes some predictions about what they don't, and then we discuss our thoughts with all of you bookworms. This month is Necromancy November.
So today, let's get to talking about
Nona the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir.
And we are back!
Finally.
Yes, oh my god.
It's been genuinely at least a year, if not more, since we recorded Harrow.
And what a year it's been.
So I guess I don't need to ask you guys how you found out about Nona, but I do need to ask you guys to tell us what Nona is about, which I'm very glad is not my job.
Nona the Ninth is The Earth Wants a Birthday Party.
Yeah! Uh-huh.
There you go.
That's a little scary along the way, but it's also about love, because it always is.
The true horror. I could be so feral about this book. And I will be. That's what we're here for.
Should we just listen to my blind?
Yeah!
I've got basically nothing. It's been a really long gap between Harrow and Nona, and so I feel like maybe there were a couple of things that I came across in fan art or cosplay that I thought, oh, okay, I know that now. But the great side effect of taking so long to do this after Harrow is that I feel like I've probably forgotten them now, so let's start with what I do know. Nona is the protagonist of this book. Who's Nona? Don't know. Only theory is that she is the person who is speaking in the epilogue in Harrow, who is, in my brain, some kind of Steven Universe gem fusion situation between Gideon and Harrow. And I don't know if we'll ever get Gideon and Harrow back, that being the case. And I feel like I haven't heard anyone talk about Gideon and Harrow in Nona, so maybe we won't get them back, who knows. But also, I feel like that would kill the sapphic, so I don't know. She has a dog, it's on the cover, I think it's her dog. I know that she's a very bright, bubbly, sunshiny kind of character. I assume that she's also a necromancer because she's sort of standing in a field of bones. Cover makes me think that maybe we're going to get some more explanation of what happened to humanity before the apocalypse. And I'm also kind of guessing that we're going to find out a little bit more about how everything works in terms of fighting the Leviathan-like creatures in Harrow. I don't know if that's true, because I guess we kind of got it with Harrow, but Harrow was not very mentally present for any of that. So, possibly not. I feel like the body is going to be more prominent in this, I'll say that, because I feel like I see a lot of people cosplaying the body and just sort of being generally obsessed with the body. World predictions. I don't know how to make a world prediction to this book, because anything I say will not be as wild as what it actually is. I think someone is going to have made one of the Necromancer Cavalier oaths with the dog, so the dog actually has two souls inside it. I guess the dog would be a Necromancer and their former Cavalier would be possessing the dog. Or, hanging out with the dog. Okay, that's it.
As far as rogue predictions go, I think that's up there.
Well, I feel like having Noodle on the cover kind of misleads people into thinking that Noodle's more important than he is, but he's kind of there.
He's important to Nona, and that's what matters.
To be fair, there's nothing to prove that he's not a necromancer. I'm just saying.
That's true. That's true.
Also, I didn't notice that he has 6 legs when I was talking about the cover. That just skipped right by me, so...
I'm obsessed with the Dramatis Personae at the beginning of this book because it's a birthday party invite list! It's so cute!
It's so sad in retrospect, though, now that you bring that up. Oh no.
Cam's little, like, annotation.
Also, I was expecting this to see all of these dogs, and we don't, which kind of made me sad, I'm not gonna lie.
I know.
I thought they were gonna come up. I was so confused by all of the gang's names as well, because they're not normal names, apart from Kevin.
I didn't catch it until the second time I read it, but it's because Nona speaks all the languages, so when she hears their name, she just translates it to the literal meaning.
Oh my god, I didn't get that at all. That's so smart.
Except for hot sauce. She's just straight up called hot sauce.
That makes so much sense. Yeah. I was just accepting it. I was just like, sure.
Well, yeah, the first time I read it, I thought it was just like straight up Puritan names, like the Scarlet Letter. I was like, yeah, okay.
It's the future. Everyone has weird names. I was also like, maybe they have different naming conventions to the houses who go for very classical names, and they're going for more like, in inverted commas, down to earth names.
Chain of 10,000 years of dead words, as we established in the second book.
Exactly.
But that is actually just a Blood of Eden naming convention.
For some reason, it struck me more that Corona was called Corona in this book, probably because her name came up less frequently. That's an unfortunate coincidence.
She's so unwell, and I love her so much.
Oh my god. I'm so happy that she was in this book more because, oh my god, I love her.
I'm going to say something which I feel like is kind of embarrassing. I did not pick up on the vibes between her and her sister until this book, when it was made very explicit.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they didn't really talk to each other in the second one.
No. But I feel like thinking back to the first one, I should have realised that there was something weird going on there, but I just didn't. It's made more confusing in this book with the fact that she's in Babs's body the whole time.
Oh my god, keeping track of who is in whose body is so difficult.
I remember when I was first reading this book, I was reading it later than everybody else in our Discord, and I just popped into Discord and went like, Transianthe? I'm very confused, but Transianthe?
I somehow knew it was Babs. I don't know. I think they just mentioned his hair being horrible. I'm like, Babs.
My personal claim to fame with this book is that I figured out who Nona and Alecto and the body were by the end of day one.
Yes, I know. I remember you like updating on that. I was like, what? I had no fucking clue. I thought it was Harrow the whole time until the very end when they explicitly said, this is Alecto, this is not Harrow. I was like, oh man.
I think my exact quote was, okay, this is my wild out-of-pocket theory that's definitely going to be wrong. I think that Nona is like the Earth via Alecto somehow. On a reread, you're like, how could you read it as anything else? Because it's so obvious every time in the John chapters, he's addressing the Earth, not actually Harrowhark.
I got that, but I didn't get that Nona...
I did pick up, though, that the numbers that beginning of John chapters were a cipher.
It's the Tower wants John Gaius.
Oh my god, well, I was just like, I bet these are Bible references, and then I thought, I should look these up, and then I just didn't.
What is the tower? What is it doing in there?
I don't know! It's probably a Tower of Babel reference, honestly, but...
The fact that it's built in the river makes me think it's Cassiopeia who built it somehow, because she went missing in the river, I say with the biggest quotation marks
And
ever.
she founded the sixth house, so you know she's scheming.
Exactly. Cassiopeia with a steel chair, as they say on Tumblr.
It's always been Cam with a steel chair, but now Cam is Steven Universe fused, so...
I got the wrong characters being absorbed into a Steven Universe fusion as well. I feel like I haven't processed that at all. I was talking to my housemate, and they were like, you were worried about your favourite characters dying. Did they die? And I was like...
Sort of?
Define death.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, another completely random theory I had about this book is I was dead convinced that Hot Sauce was Jean from the fourth.
Okay.
She said she fought in a war and held a gun once. I'm like, oh my god, it's her! Just because I like her and I wanted her to be alive.
I mean, to be fair, no one wouldn't have recognised her
Cam would have recognized her, but...
eventually, but Cam doesn't meet her until a fair ways in.
I loved all the Cam content in this. Oh, queen. I love the mechanism they have of switching on and switching off. It's so cool.
The little update thing with Nona is so cute. They do such a good job with speedrunning the found family here, because I cared about them so much within like 2 minutes. Advantage that you already care about Pal and Cam, I guess, but still.
The first time I read this book, I cried probably 4 times. I don't know how I feel about Paul yet, because I miss Camilla and Calamity separately, but Paul is also cool.
I felt like I was trying very hard not to resent Paul's very existence out of grief.
Mm-hmm. They're in the river, I think, now, because that's what they said they were gonna do, and I think they wanted to see Dulcinea in the river because they were like, oh, do you think she's gonna recognize us? Sometimes I think about Cam, Impal, and Dulcinea too hard, and then I get sad. And also, poor Judith in this book. Every book she's in, she's just having a completely awful time.
She's having such a bad time. Is she even having a time? Does she even know what's going on? The scene where Judith says all the stuff, and then Nona's like, what was she talking about? And everyone's like, excuse me.
I know, that was so horror movie kid.
I want to listen to the audiobook because I really want to hear the Nona performance. I'm curious.
It's so cute. It's so cute.
She's just so wide-eyed. So she loves everything so much.
I love how the book's just like, yeah, the Earth is a girl who loves everybody so wholeheartedly and just wants to have a birthday party and wants to pet dogs. I'm like, oh, so true.
She does not want to eat. She just wants to eat pencils, and that's so valid.
I love how there was more Pyrrha in this book. I love her. And I love how she just flirts with every woman she sees.
She's so sad, but so done. The fact that she figures out who Nona is. Oh my god. That scene between the two of them where she's like carrying Nona and Alecto is like, did you think this was fun playing Happy Families? And Pyrrha's like, I'm just trying to show you love, babes. I'm so sorry.
That's all Pyrrha wants to do is show people love.
Yeah.
Even seeing Gideon again, she still misses Commander Wake so terribly.
Yeah.
Pyrrha just cares so much. Like, she remembers Gideon Prime's original name 10,000 years later.
Does she?
Yeah, because she says Gideon and then G, but the G is blanked out because they're not supposed to know what their original names were. I had a hard time figuring out who everybody with, like, the letters were.
The C got me a few times. I was like, is that Cassiopeia? Is that someone else?
Cytherea could be, too.
I think Cytherea was not in the original group, because Cytherea was on the 7th.
Oh, Christabel. Sorry, it's Christabel and Cassiopeia.
That's it. That's who was confusing me.
Christabel's the nun.
Yeah. We've literally never met this woman, but we know so much about how feral she is for a cause because of what Augustine and John say about her. And it's so interesting to me that she's like, yeah, I'm just going to kill myself in front of you. Get snappy on it. Come on.
It's encouragement.
That's very 8th, though. I love how God is just an evil Twitch streamer. Like, of course he is.
I love the voice that the audiobook narrator does for him, because he's so like, yeah, but you know, cows watch sunsets, dude. And guys, chill. It's just Melbourne. I love him so much.
It was really interesting listening to the audiobook because, especially with all the God lines, because he talks so much more in this, he's very overtly supposed to be Kiwi. And there's very overt sayings that are specifically Maori, apparently. But you also have Moira Quirk, who does a fabulous job just saying it in a British accent, and it's almost odd.
That is the one thing. All of the references that Pyrrha makes imply that she remembers the world from before. All of the other lictors don't remember the world before because they don't remember who they used to be.
John didn't want anyone to remember, right? But then Pyrrha remembers because she wasn't even supposed to be, like, conscious.
There's that one line that she says, like, right before Cam and Powell do their Steven Universe fusion.
We were just kids looking at stars in a pool of water thinking it was space. Ugh.
Such a good line.
Just all the quotes in this book.
Also, you can't take loved away. I've loved you both. That rocked my fucking world. I'm like, you know what? So true.
That nearly made me cry. That doesn't happen a lot, so...
Also, life is too short and love is too long.
Oh god, yeah.
Of course, this polarity's always just waxing poetic, but like, ugh.
He took that from his fanfiction. I was just so stressed that Nona was gonna die, which I guess kind of happens towards the end, that I couldn't cry because I was frightened.
She was shot like 85 times, and I was like, girl.
It's not really remarked on, but we do permanently lose so many characters in this book. Like, you really follow Nona for the whole book, and then you lose her in such a more permanent way than Gideon. Maybe it's possible that Alecto will remember this childhood she never got to have before, but Nona doesn't exist anymore. And neither do Cam and Pal.
I can't believe that God put the f***ing Earth into a Barbie. We haven't discussed this.
Okay, this is so interesting. The way that God talks about Alecto, especially in Harrow, there's this moment where he says to Harrow, once you turn your back on something, you can't pretend that you own it still. And he's talking about Blood of Eden and the fact that they abandoned Earth. He's really just ignoring the fact that he also abandoned Earth. He literally locked her in a tomb. I've seen a lot of people talk about it on Tumblr about the fact that Tamsyn Muir is really interested in exploring exploitative men and how they treat women and girlhood and how they sort of manipulate it and how they have victim complexes and make things beholden to them.
He said at one point when he was talking about his lictor gang, yeah, next time I start a cult, it's going to be teenage girls because they're easier to manipulate. And who does he have on Mithraeum in Harrow the Ninth? Teenage girls.
This book is so interesting because the first two books you've been like, okay, yeah, there's a war going on somewhere, whatever, we're following the 9 houses. And then you actually meet the victims of the war and you're like, oh, the 9 houses are actually the bad guy here. look at the consequence of this 10,000 year war.
And it's so good seeing it through Nona's eyes because it's all she's ever known. So she's just like vibing with it. She's just like, then we took a different route to school because there was a dead body.
Really does feel like more of like a product of 2022, the climate concerns and living in a world that is collapsing in a much more active way than looking at the Ninth. The Ninth is collapsing very slowly because everyone's dying of old age, as opposed to living in an active war zone and the decay of the earth in the original time.
Whenever I read books about or see movies about people just still living and loving each other during the apocalypse, I eat that up. Oh my god.
The fact that Nona doesn't understand what's going on, as with all the other narrators of Tamsyn Muir's books, they don't understand what's going on. But you, as the reader, now have such a rooting in this world that you can understand the things that she's overhearing without her understanding them. And you can be like, no, I really need to hear this. And she's like, yeah, I'm bored now, I'm walking away. And you're like, no, please, tell me more.
Or you can even just make educated guesses, even if they're not correct. Her constantly dreaming about water and hands, I was like, are you dreaming about the pool scene?
Yeah, it's so interesting to have more of a grounding than the narrator. Oh, it's so interesting how she writes, and I just want to pick apart her brain.
I'm so jealous of how she writes, though. Oh my god. Every time I read her books, I'm like, spare some talent for the rest of us, please.
Honestly. Favorite characters in this book? Who's everyone's favorite?
Well, it's always Cam.
Yeah.
I think it is Nona. Just the empathy she has, the childlike seriousness that she has. That feels like an oxymoron because obviously she's like a lot lighter than all the other characters we've had as narrators so far. But treating very mundane events as like so important. It's really important who gets her fruit during the day. She's making things fair and she's like, honestly, don't worry. You could go into my house and steal my stuff. I'm thinking about your projects because this is very important to you, so it's important to me. And the fact that she knows she's dying the whole time and is just like, it's fine though. I love her so much. And then when she gets angry, I just love that trope, the nice character going completely feral.
It's so funny when she's referring to them in the abstract as tantrums at the beginning, and it's like, I feel like maybe you're underplaying it.
Horrifying. Horror movie. The genre of this book, from Nona's point of view, is not horror, but from anybody else's point of view, you're like, Jesus Christ, we're in The Shining, okay.
I also really love Pyrrha, because she's just so sweet and so caring and has lived for too long and has been through too much, and I just want her to have a nice time for once.
And now she has like a 9 to 5 after all of that. Someone help her.
That moment when she's toasting Varun the Eater and she's like, here's to Camilla Hecht.
Another one of Devotion's casualties.
That's such a good line as well. Oh god.
The fact that everybody in this book thinks they know things. They think they know who Nona is. They think they know what's happening. And none of them is right. But you don't even necessarily know what they think they know. But you know that they're wrong. When Corona's like, I know who you are. She definitely doesn't. Everybody is projecting what they want onto what they think is a blank canvas. But it's not a blank canvas. It's the earth.
And it's interesting because Cam is trying really hard not to, and Pal, but they're still doing it on some level.
They still want to talk to Harrow. They still want to talk to Gideon.
Until they start talking to Gideon, and then they're like,
I've seen so many people online be like, Gideon was so out of character. And it's like, no, we've only ever experienced her from her point of view. We have canonical evidence that she's an absolute... We do. Like, okay, Harrow is also an absolute... The two of them literally grew up together. They are horrible people, especially to each other. And also, I'm sorry, if you'd been stuck in your own corpse and given speed holes and forced to be this divine figure... I think you'd be a little pissed off.
And if you had to spend that time with Yante, who she hates most of the time.
But they have friendship bracelets. They have such a similar humour.
Yeah, I know.
I really thought the bonus story was going to be how they bonded, because I wanted to see them just being really terrible friends.
They're just bonding over being obsessed with Harrow.
Yeah. They have terrible taste. They really do. I was so happy to see her again when she woke up and immediately started calling Calamity Sex Pal. I'm like, yay, she's back! I know it's her in that body.
I was confused initially because I was like, are you not still in Nona in some respect at that point? But then as soon as she said that, I was like, well, this is definitely her.
It's interesting to think about. We haven't exactly established who is in what body and at what point. And we know that Harrow did start digesting Gideon's soul. So it's possible that Gideon's not all there.
Been chewed on.
Yeah, and Harrow isn't completely a lictor, but she's not entirely human anymore because she does have small dregs of Gideon's soul. So the only way that they can get back to an equal balance of power would be for Gideon to just take a little munch out of Harrow's soul.
It's gonna be so but evil in the next book.
I would not be surprised if they all end up dead.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But the real question, will they get their act together first in some way or another? Will they at least make out?
No.
No.
They would eat each other before they make out, I think.
Is there a difference in this book?
No! Oh yeah, who's your favorite character in this?
Obviously, it's still Pal. I want to take a moment to talk about Pash because I love her.
Oh yes, oh my god. She's so cool, but also so not cool.
I love that Nona was just like, wow, she's so hot. The baby lesbian thing, where she's like, oh my god, her hair's blue and shaved on the sides.
Nona's just so in love with everybody.
Yeah.
Also, she's in love with herself. The self-love that she has for Harrow's body, when Harrow has always hated her own reflection and always not connected to it in any way. And then Nona looks in the mirror and is like, I'm f***ing hot, and you better believe it.
Nona hates wearing clothes most of the time, and Harrow was always dressed like a tent, so...
Honestly, it was kind of refreshing because I do feel like you read books and almost every protagonist has to be like, no, I don't like the way I look. Obviously, this is the other extreme of that. But I was like, I'm having a great time. I'm so glad that Nona's like, sometimes I make out with my reflection. Anyway.
Yeah, Gideon's like that too, with her why was I born so attractive?
Because anyone would have killed you otherwise.
So good.
I feel like we have to talk about this theory, which is the Electo-elephant theory.
What?
If you guys have heard this, that Electo's true form is an elephant. Because the thing that she draws in class is an elephant, and she always talks about how her ears are too small, and why does she have hands when she should have 4 feet? She wants a longer nose.
Oh,
God.
yeah!
I saw this theory on Tumblr, so...
And elephants are famously good drivers.
Of course.
No, I'm on board with this theory.
No, I'm on board with this too. This makes sense.
I also love the lore drop of Cam has a half-sister.
Who has to watch her burn to death.
And she was like, my dads might not understand, but your half-sister will.
Apparently.
Do you not have a good relationship?
They've all just watched Cam and Powell be so lovesick, and are like, yeah, sure. This is the logical progression.
And I love everybody just noticing how beautiful Corona is. Like, she turns heads all the time.
Corona turning up to school and pretending to be Cam's partner. What a power move.
Yeah! And the teacher was like, Camilla, really?
Corona falling in love with everybody who doesn't want her or is bad for her.
Her only type.
Mm-hmm.
So iconic.
And I love Ianthe just flaming her for being in love with Judith.
I love how Ianthe knows her well enough to be like, really? Those earrings? Clearly a listening device, because you'd never wear those.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely iconic.
Her comeback, like, Babs needs his hair done pompadour, he looks terrible. I want more Abigail and Magnus. I miss them. We want a whole book without them.
Considering we know that Abigail is like Harrow's psychopomp, and we know that Harrow is in the river somewhere, and that Abigail went into the river at the end of book 2. Abigail back, Magnus back, the twins back, please. I want more of them.
Abigail Virgil era. Yeah, I want the terrible teens. I miss them.
If Electo was the last book, where on earth would this series end?
I was just looking it up, and apparently Tamsyn did an interview that said Electo is done, but it's not been edited, and it's also chunky as...
I'm not surprised by that.
This was in January of this year.
Oh yeah, and apparently she did say that there will be a wedding of some sort.
What does that mean? I don't trust that.
Yeah, I'm scared of that.
Corona and Ianthe. I'm calling.
Oh no. It's probably gonna be people f***ing eating each other, honestly.
I can imagine like a red wedding style thing. Everyone gets torn to pieces.
Was Cam and Pal's fusion not a wedding of sorts?
Technically, Harrow and Gideon are already married. I love how that is just canon, but never addressed. Gideon's literally like, you know, marry a girl, die. I get the urge. And it's like, oh, so those actually were wedding vows. It wasn't just that you'd taken some cool text that God had kept around. That was actually purposefully a wedding vow. Interesting. I just want Harrow and Gideon to interact once in Electo and I'll be fed, please. They haven't interacted since the end of Gideon.
They kind of interacted in Harrow. Gideon was like, you're an evil nun.
They talked to each other the same way that Cam and Pal talk to each other in this book, aka they don't get to.
Cam just desperately wanting to see Pal's face.
Yeah.
That was so sad.
Oh, she misses him so terribly.
The moments where, like, after she listens to recordings and then she has to go and sit in the bath for a while, I wanted to sob so badly.
And the bit as well where Pal says, I want to see Cam's face, but I just see myself staring out through your mask, like it's not you.
So unwell about this book. Nona talking to Varun through the window, being like, please don't do anything weird.
I love the respect Pal has for Harrow. When they dressed up Nona, he's like, look at me like you want to kill me. And then I miss Harrow so much. You guys met each other so briefly, but you guys just hit it off so well. I want them to talk to each other again.
In another world, they could have been such good academic rivals to friends.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now they never will be.
I felt like it would have been academic rivals and friends.
No, definitely.
Here's a weird thought. Are these books dark academia?
Sure.
I would say yes. I like the tag academia-esque for things that technically aren't exactly, but fall under the realm of. Especially with the references. I feel like references is a big one for dark academia.
That's
and there
true.
are so many in this book.
I'm just thinking of the meme references again. I know that's not what you mean.
I mean, also that, because that's just like a contemporary version of dark academia.
Intertextuality.
I don't know about Homestuck, but I do know about Inferno. So.
Yeah, I don't get the meme references, but I can tell you about the Iliad.
None of us have read Homestuck, I believe.
Even the Gideon glasses are a Homestuck reference.
Oh my god, are they?
Oh, it's a Dave Strider reference.
I did love that Cam got to have them.
It's so cool.
Yeah, because Palamides likes to fiddle with his glasses all the time, and so he needs something to do with, or else he's gonna keep hitting himself in the face.
Where's attention to detail is insane.
I know, I do that all the time.
I got LASIK and I was smacking myself in the face for months. Yeah.
The way that Nona can read between the two of them and figure it out, even when they have the glasses on. Because the glasses are supposed to hide it. I understand the lessons of the hand and the mouth.
The language and the body language thing makes so much sense now that I know who she
Yes.
is. Yeah.
Like, of course, the Earth would be a sweet girl who speaks every language. Like, obviously.
And the only reason that Electo wasn't that is because her birth was violent and horrible, and the man who made her that way kept her like that in this toxic environment. And now she's had the opportunity to have a childhood. She's able to have empathy again, in theory, maybe.
So maybe fourth book will just be a nice, happy, fun time.
Maybe. Electo kills John, everyone go home.
Yeah, well, she did stab him at the end.
He's just like, hi.
Yeah, good morning, Annabelle. Because he won't even call her by her real name.
I wanted to kill him so badly when he greeted her as Annabelle.
Like, don't dead name her, God.
When I read the summary, it was like, it ends with her killing God. And I was like, that feels very presumptuous.
Yeah, she did not kill him. And they clearly do this all the time.
He can't die while she's alive, so this is probably just like how she used to wake him up every morning, being like, good morning, stabs you.
I did love getting his side of the story, in inverted commas. You can kind of almost see where this guy is coming from, which is always my favourite thing. You're like, wow, you killed everyone and then you like ate the universe. How are you going to justify that one? And then you hear his story and you're like, alright, okay.
It's because he hates Jeff Bezos.
Exactly.
It's so valid. I love the writing style of those sections. It's so simple because the dialogue is more important, but it's so effective. The way that it's expressed, because Electo doesn't really understand, and Harrow is experiencing it through Electo's eyes. The biased narration, and you're like, I know that this man is so biased, but also he's laying out some concise points.
I'm not sure if concise is the word.
Not concise, but he's laying down some groundwork where I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe if you just resurrected the whole world instead of just New Zealand, I'd have slightly more empathy. But good for you.
You know what? New Zealand writes.
You know? So fair. I think one of the things that throws me off is the fact that I've listened to the audiobook so many times. So I'm like, yeah, but Pyrrha's got this accent and Wake has this accent. And then I'm like, no, this is all just Moira Quirk. They're all supposed to have New Zealand accents.
Moira Quirk's Pash voice is apparently her doing an impression of her gym teacher from school.
Iconic. I can see it.
Yeah, I like We Suffer's French accent.
We are all just people who want to go to the bathroom.
She's French.
Yeah.
I was desperately trying to figure out if I was supposed to know who We Suffer and Pash were for like half the book. Because I was like, I obviously know who Corona is.
I'm always obsessed with her Corona and Ianthe voices. Oh,
Yeah.
So good.
When they start mocking each other and she's like still managing to do different voices for them. This is a Moira Quirk Stan podcast now, actually. We haven't talked about AIM yet.
We should talk about AIM. I wanted to. I was very confused by AIM's general existence until the end.
I'm still confused.
Me too.
Okay, so we've got MSN and we've got AIM, and those don't make anything in terms of anagram.
Yeah, MSN Messenger and AIM Messenger. It's...
Morgan's just blinking.
There's no R.
What?
What?
No, like MSN, like people used to.
Yeah, people still use MSN messages. They're both like early internet messaging things.
This is the thing about this book. You're like, oh, I feel like I've got it, and then there's just some weird piece of knowledge that you don't have that's like nothing to do with anything, and therefore you miss something.
Wait, so what does AIM stand? What?
AOL Instant Messenger. AOL made it. Why? I don't know.
What is the message? Who is sending the message?
I don't know.
Please, this is the one thing in this book that I'm like, I actually need this explained more, Tamsyn. I'm really confused. Who is sending this message? Obviously, it's for Electo, I'm assuming.
Somebody on Reddit thinks that it's a person who is an ancient message that's been passed down through civilization.
Oh.
They think it's like very much a Chekhov's gun for the next book. So it kind of reminds me sort of those long-term nuclear warnings, like the whole "this is not a place of honor, no good deed was commemorated here," that kind of thing. So I think it might be a watch out.
I would more expect it to be a meme.
It might be a meme.
Honestly, probably.
But it's like a meme that has like significant, or it will be a reminder that Nona existed. And then Electo will be like, there is hope in life.
Yeah, because AIM wasn't supposed to be hanging out with Nona. That was like the whole point.
Oh, also, because people can do DNA digital data storage, so they can encode text and a message into strands of DNA, so they might have made AIM that way.
I think who's sending the message is the most important question, because that will change a lot of things. Is it humanity? Is it the tower?
Somebody thinks that they have a connection with Cassiopeia.
Cassiopeia with the steel chair.
Yeah, yeah!
I also think that we haven't gotten all of Kithurea's motivations yet. So I think there's more there to explore.
But Kith is such an interesting character, and I really hope to see more of her story.
And we got her story from very biased sources. So
yeah, because who was her cavalier? It was Loveday Haptane, and I think they were mentioned briefly to be in love with each other. So as necromancers and cavaliers tend to be.
They just can't help themselves unless they're related. Actually, even sometimes when they are related.
Yeah.
That's why God should have resurrected everyone. Apparently there weren't enough people to avoid the incest.
Yes, the sixth is just incesting it up. Because they don't have enough people and everybody's related. I'm like, oh God.
I love how I literally finished Children of Dune this week, and my note on Goodreads was, I'm begging men to stop putting incest in things. But then as soon as Tamsyn Muir does it, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, Ianthe and Corinabeth are so in love. I love that for them. It's so unhealthy.
She's doing it with flair.
I am a twin, and I see it so often in media. It's like, oh, we're gonna make the twins date each other. And I'm like, stop it, please.
This is a campaign against you personally.
Yeah, exactly. A hate crime.
Zoe, as our guest, tell us your final thoughts.
Big fan. Big fan. Really love this book. Makes me lose my marbles completely every time. I don't think I'm emotionally prepared for the next one. I don't think I'll ever be emotionally prepared for the next one. I think it's just gonna wreck me as a person and turn me into a puddle. So, yeah. And I love how they're always about love. It's just so wonderful.
Soren, how do you feel about this book?
I love this book. I loved it pretty much on par with Harrow, which is saying something. It's so good. Moore is such a good writer. You're both so right. I'm so jealous. I'm more envious than jealous because I want the writing to exist so I can read it. But I'm also like, this is all I want forever. To be fair, if I only had to read one writer for the rest of my life, should be a candidate at least, because I can't face not reading these ever again, basically. That's the reason. Anyway, yeah, this is 5 stars. This is so good. I love Nona so much, and I hope Nona loves me.
I'm sure she does.
Morgan, will you give us your final thoughts?
I love this book so much. On a first read, it was like, yeah, this is 5 stars, but it's not as good as Harrow, because Harrow is like deeply in my soul. But the more I reread it, the more I'm like, it's different to Harrow, but it might be on par with Harrow. The more I read it, the more I'm affected by it. And the more I think about it, the more I just hurt. Possibly my second favourite book I've ever read after Harrow.
Yeah, I think I like Harrow slightly better, but this one's just so good.
It's just so refreshing and devastating.
Do we have any recommendations? I haven't even thought about this.
I think Cormac McCarthy's The Road a little bit, just because his point of view of apocalypse. Love each other during the apocalypse. And then also, video game. For some reason, the whole book gave me Disco Elysium vibes. All the civil unrest and just people trying to live their goddamn lives.
I think I am going to recommend The Promised Neverland because it is childhood perspective on apocalypse. And the main character, everyone else is ready to give up on the world. And this one girl is just like, I have empathy for everyone here. I will complete this goal without turning on people. And everybody has to survive this. And also loads and loads of body horror, which we love.
The only thing that I can think of is a thing I'm not even sure is accessible, but there was a play called Mr. Burns by Anne Washburn, a 3-act play. It's basically a bunch of survivors of the apocalypse trying to tell this story of a Simpsons episode that they remember. And then it gets corrupted in each act and it becomes more of a ritual and more of a cultural fixture for people because it's been hundreds of years. And I feel like that plays with ideas kind of similarly in the way that the Lock Team does.
I have another book, Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. And also A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. Wholesome, sweet sci-fi.
Yeah.
People just wanting to love each other. Especially Psalm for the Wild Built is a lot of what is Earth's purpose doing here. And I really like that. Little sci-fi books that ask big questions.
That actually reminded me of one. Floating Hotel by Grace Curtis, which I hope will be out by the time this episode is out. It's been described as Becky Chambers meets the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh my god, books made for me in a lab.
It's very fun. It's jumping between different protagonists, and it seems kind of like everything's chill on the surface to begin with in kind of a Nona way. And then you kind of find out that maybe there's an empire with an undying emperor god figure in this galaxy. Who knew? But everything's fine because it's sort of the civilian perspective, if you will. It's very empathetic and about human connection.
I think the other book I'm going to recommend is Threads That Bind by Kiki Hatsopoulou. It is this post-apocalypse neo-noir society where all of this city that they live in is drowned every night and they have to live above. People are descended from Greek gods and have magical abilities, and there's fate threads and 3 pink moons. And there's leviathans in the sea, and there's iceberg wars because there's no drinking water. The post-apocalypse nature magic vibes are just so cool. And it's also a murder mystery. Main character is very sort of like first love, very hopeful, very naive in every decision that she makes. Also, there's a really hot mob boss who wears velvet green suits. I love her so much.
That sounds fun.
Zoe, what are you up to? What's going on? It's been a year.
Oh, yeah. Tranthology's still kicking. Tune in June.
But that is the thing to say, is that since we last recorded with you, we all won Audioverses for Tranthologies, which is absolutely crazy.
So go listen to award-winning podcast Tranthologies, and you can find Zoe's socials, as usual, in the show notes. But if you haven't followed Zoe by now, then what are you doing? Quite frankly.
Yeah, I know. I post a lot of gymnastics content on Twitter, so like...
That's really very relevant to the Lock Team audience.
Am I a gymnast? No. Have I ever been a gymnast? No.
But the vibes.
But the vibes.
Our next episode will be Die. We're going to make so many jokes about it. It's going to be great. We are reading the comic series Die by Gillen, Cowles and Hans. It is very good. It is RPG themed. We are doing Comics Month. I'm not going to say anything else. Until then, you're always welcome through the bookcase.
Don't forget to scratch the cat on your way out. Thank you for listening to The Hidden Bookcase, a production of Planar Prod. On this episode, you heard Zoey Davis, Morgan Grunsmith, and Soren Briarwood discussing Nona the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. You can find out more about this book at tamsynmuir.com, and you can follow Muir on Twitter at TazMuir. A huge thank you to Zoe for joining us for this episode. You were out of this world. You can follow Zoe at Zoe_Wav on Twitter, or at Zoe.Wav on Instagram. Check out Trans Anthology Podcast at Tranthologies on Twitter, or on your favourite podcasting platform. You can find The Hidden Bookcase on Twitter at Hidden Bookcase, and on Instagram, Tumblr, and TikTok at Hidden Bookcase Podcast. Find out more about Planar Prod at planarprod.com. Know what we should read next, or want to chat to us about what you thought of this episode's read? You can reach us at thehiddenbookcase@gmail.com, send us a DM on social media, or come chat with your fellow bookworms in our growing Discord server. The link is in the show notes. Want to support The Hidden Bookcase? Support us on Patreon for bonus episodes every month, outtakes, playlists, and other extras, or consider leaving us a rating or review or telling a friend how to find us. Your whispers are the best way for bookworms to discover our show. We're bringing back Graphic Novels Month to close out the year. On our next episode, which will be out on Monday, the 4th of December, we'll be discussing Die, the whole story, including volumes 1 to 4, by Kieran Gillen, Stephanie Hans, and Clayton Cowles. We hope to see you then, and in the meantime, you're always welcome through the bookcase.